One. Welcome to the Jordan Garber Now news update for December the 8th, 2020. I am not the star of the show this time. Obviously, our co host Phil Stamper is here. We are talking about wrestling news here, and what a magical day in professional wrestling. And I know that we were talking a little before the show, and you weren't as excited as I was, but NWA was on today, Impact Wrestling was on today. VOC Nation had in the room on today. There's just a lot of wrestling podcasts. There's a lot of wrestling shows in total going on. But NWA Shockwave and Impact Wrestling was my favorite. And my favorite match tonight was the Thunder Rosa match. Before we get into that, I want you to dig deep, deep, deep there on Impact there, Mr. Stamper. Were you a big fan of what happened tonight?
I honestly had a mixed reaction. I mean, I'll be very honest, and I've said this before. I think Impact Wrestling has probably had some of the best wrestling product. If you look at it from just a strict like who were some of the better wrestlers or who has put on the best matches in the last year, it really has been Impact. However, they're not as strong on the production side as a WWE or even an AEW, and because they don't have any live crowd, not even like their own roster at ringside, there, and you lose that effect of the crowd noise. I think they struggled with it the most. Then they were doing the best when everybody was kind of in a silent room. Like they were filling their space with noise enough that you could watch it and like, okay, I feel still pumped about it. And now that everybody else has a room full of noise, they don't, and it's a very noticeable distinction on how they're different right now.
When I heard that news, man, like I was hyped. Kenny Omega, who's on Jordan Garber now, who's on here in the past, was a great
Mm-hmm.
guest. He's gonna be the star. He's like on top of the wrestling world. He's on Impact with Don Callis, but like we were talking about earlier, like I feel like it was a big showcase for nothing. And it's like, are we gonna have them on again in the future, or is it slowly gonna die down? And I
Yeah,
kind of worry about that sometimes. Like, what's your take on that? Was it what you expected?
and I don't. Yes and no at the same time, because there was a lot of high hopes. I have a weird motto in life about high hopes and low expectations. So there was this certain thought in my brain of like where they could go with it and where they might go with it. And I felt like they didn't really go as high as my highest hope, but they didn't go as low as my lowest hope either. So it kind of flittered between the two and left this sort of vagueness about what was going to happen in the future. And through the course of it, I know I know, I think it was in the first hour where you saw an appearance from Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone doing a commercial for AEW that was also into the storyline of what was happening to try to drive some traffic over on to Wednesday nights from Impact. The video content that was built around what happened last week on Dynamite that started Impact, I thought was really, really strong. And because I don't have Access TV, I watched on their Twitch stream. And in between matches, when they were doing commercial breaks for television, they were showing sort of retro moments from Impact's past. And as I'm streaming through the chat, people got a little bit disenfranchised because it's like, wait a minute, we're like mid match. We get that it's a commercial break, but this isn't aligning with your current product. And it was a lot of reflection on people who were in AEW, a couple who some of those matches then were with people who were still in Impact, and then an AJ Styles match. And it was like, well, wait a minute, like, well, what are you trying to do at this time where you're getting new eyes on your product? Who are you really trying to reflect and to showcase? And because I know that Impact has pre-taped a lot of their events, there was that question in my mind, like, how much of this was built around what they're going to show today? Like, how much of this was built in the last time they all came together to do the pre-tape to get ready? Did they bring some guys down to do small segments? The moment with Rich Swann in the end not being allowed in the parking lot because the world champion was there, and Rich getting a little bit perturbed because he is the Impact world champion, and it's like, well, wait a minute, I'm the champion. What are you talking about? And when Josh Matthews first walked into the bus of Don Callis and Kenny Omega, and no one was there, I was like, oh, did they totally swerve everybody? And they didn't, because they were there. But I felt like the promo was a promo for the sake of a promo because it didn't give anything about what was going to be coming next. It just sort of retold the fact that Don Callis and Kenny Omega have this history together, um, this really long-term history, including the I'm going to mess up the name, the Golden Sheik, who was the uncle of Kenny Omega, who introduced a 10-year-old Kenny Omega at the time to the world of professional wrestling and met Don Callis, and that, like, the Golden Sheik protected Don Callis when he got into wrestling. So now it's Don Callis's turn to help Kenny Omega in the world of wrestling, and that they kind of came up with this together for years on how they would dominate the world of professional wrestling, and put over how they booked the Chris Jericho moment with Kenny Omega at New Japan. It wasn't New Japan. How Don Callis worked behind the scenes to get into AEW, and it wasn't Impact driving it. It wasn't Tony Khan allowing it. He did it, with Kenny Omega allowing him to get that foot in the door. So there was some interesting moments in that telling the story, but it was sort of then what happens next. And beyond, watch tomorrow for AEW for more. You and even that was sort of a softball. You really didn't get what was next. There was sort of this pitch of Kenny Omega saying, "I collect things. I liked collecting things," and that a reference to he might come back and try to win the Impact World Championship. That was sort of left this big open door without really addressing it. And so there's part of me that
the
then
fans wondering.
It does, to a degree, but I felt like the delivery was missing. Because for me to tell you what I just did took maybe 2 minutes. To watch it, I think, was the last 15 minutes of the program. And so it just ate so much time. And that was the only downfall of that segment, because then with that, walking out of it not going, well, is he going to challenge somebody? I guess we're watching tomorrow on Dynamite, without really saying, watch us tomorrow on Dynamite for what we're going to say next. It left sort of this big open question of what's going on, more than, oh, this is about to happen, or here's the door that they might be leaving open. It was like I'm having to process it to get it out, where they did it for 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there's one thing I do need to bring up on this news update is I don't know if you watched it, but the match between Thunder Rosa and Priscilla Kelly was absolutely amazing. It really, really made tonight a good vibe, and that was the match that really set that magical night in pro wrestling for myself, in my opinion. You know, maybe the hype wasn't as big as it was, but that match was absolutely incredible. Did you catch that? Do you recall catching that
You
match?
said that it was just an amazing match to watch.
Yeah.
You broke up there a little bit. Sorry, did I miss did I miss you?
That's my fault. That was my internet connection there quickly. I just had to reboot something. But no, yeah, Priscilla Kelly and Thunder Rosa. An amazing match there on NWA Shockwave. Reached heights, and I thought it was an absolutely incredible match. Did you catch it?
Unfortunately, I didn't, but I saw a lot of the comments about it online, and that people just very much like you seem to love the match. That it was just such a wonderful match to observe.
No, absolutely no doubt about that. All right. Well, in terms of our news update here, we like to have some non-wrestling talk as well. Are you into like UFOs or anything like stuff like that?
I am a little bit, yeah.
Do you have any like
I'm,
UFO sightings or funny stories you could share with us or anything?
so years ago, I lived in a town called Shepherdstown, West Virginia, and it's actually more recent history been featured on a history channel. I think it was History or Travel Channel show called Ghosts of Shepherdstown, and it has a lot of paranormal connection, a lot of historical connection, both to the Civil War and the Revolutionary War here in the United States. And it's right across the river, the Potomac River, from the Antietam battlefield. So even then, one of the most historic battlefields that has a lot of record of haunting happening. There's a lot of sort of paranormal stories that have developed out of Shepherdstown. And it happened to be, go figure, on Halloween night, I'm coming back home to Shepherdstown, and the battlefield's to the left of me, and I'm looking over like, am I going to see anything spooky? And as I look across the river, as it typically does near that body of water, got a little hazy. And I was looking above the town. I'm like, that's weird. I see these lights in the clouds. And as I looked up, I'm like, wait a minute, it's not like a whole bunch of lights. It's 3 specific points of light in the shape of a triangle, and like an elongated triangle. So like the, one point on one end, and then two are points in line with each other. And I'm like, Phil, you're just, your brain's just making things believe what you want to believe. And I'm watching it, and I couldn't see through the cloud to see it, but they all were at the same height. It all hovered, and then they all raised up together and left the cloud bank.
Oh
So I
wow.
never saw an object. I just saw the lights, and I'm like, that's a little freaky to me, because again, who knows what it was? It's a freaky experience. Um, and I don't know if I think I have an idea of where you're going to go next, but I don't know.
No, actually, like I've never had any UFO sightings or UFO stories or anything. That's why, like, I want to get people's perspective and see what it's like because, like, I want to be ready when I see it because, like, I believe in aliens. I do believe that there is some other form of life out there, and I believe that UFOs prove it. So, um, it just it's good to get a good amount of stories and perspectives. That way, hopefully, when I have a story and perspective, I'm ready for it and I don't die.
Did you see the story that's in the news then about the former head of Israel's defense ministry
No, not
talking
yet,
about?
actually.
Yesterday, this story broke, and I actually had to pull it up just to make sure I got his right name. Hamish Ed, who's the former head of Israel's defense ministry, contact already that there's this gigantic galactic federation that they don't think humanity is really ready for us to know, but they're sort of protecting us and they want to work together with us. And that all the presidents know about it, all major leaders of the world know about it, but that humanity just isn't ready yet. And he said, this gentleman, I believe he is now 80 years old, and he's saying, if I said this even 5 years ago, I would have been, kicked out of, I'd have been kicked out of my job. I would have been, laughed at all over the place. And he's like, I have enough respect of my peers. I'm a retired general. This is real, and it's like, oh, this is interesting. Um, it's really really interesting.
Wow. I'm gonna have to check that out, and definitely all of our Jordan Garber Now listeners can check it out. If you guys have any more comments, throw in a suggestion. I'm gonna throw you guys in a draw to win yourselves a hat, autograph photo card, your choice. So be sure to stay tuned for the Jordan Garber Now podcast, and always contribute to the news update because it's yours as well. And Phil Stamper, I want to thank you for helping me fill in here this week on the news update. And we look forward to having you on next week's Jordan Garber Now news update.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.